Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Kris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white-knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, y'all. How are you today? Welcome to the Spark Faith Show. My name is Dr. Kris Sargent, and today we are going to talk about cultivating and growing things. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about cultivating and growing things. And if you don't have a green thumb, that's not going to matter because we are going to grow things in our lives and we are going to grow the soil of our body. So today's episode is called Cultivate. The soil of your life matters. It really does. So I can tell you a little bit about myself right now. There's something that I have been told pretty much my whole practice life of 34 years. And that is that I can be a little in your face and that I don't always lead with love and grace. And so today I want you to know ahead of time, right? This might feel a little in your face. And it's coming with a load of love and grace, a load of love and grace, because I've had to cultivate grace and love for myself in the things that I'm about to talk to you about. And so, this is not my rodeo, this is your rodeo. So I just want to make sure that that is settled and that this is received with love and not shame. This is not about guilt. I know I'm really piquing your interest, aren't I? Wait a minute. We went from cultivating a garden to shame and guilt. What? Yeah, I know. It's okay. So let me ask you a quick question. If you planted a garden, ignored it for months, and then came back and you were frustrated because nothing grew, would this problem be the seed that you planted? Well, that's kind of how some of y'all are living right now, right? You're expecting results in your body and maybe a different type of life. Maybe you want something different in your life. However, maybe some of you haven't really cultivated and tended to your lives in a way that would promote that kind of growth. And maybe some of the things that we, including me, right? Y'all, me, we, right? Have been calling our personality. I'm just not a consistent person. I'm not that kind of person, right? I'm not a morning person. I'm not a count your macros person. I know that's a hard one. I'm in it right now. However, those things might not really be identity oriented. They might really just be patterns of growth in really neglected soil, right? They may just be weeds, right? So last Sunday, we went to a little different church, which was really kind of fun and cool. And the pastor said something that I haven't really been able to shake. And partially because I started talking a little bit about this last week. Um, and so, which I'm going to move into in just a second. But he said this. He said we have to move from spectator to participator, right? Let that sink in. We have to move from like spectator, sitting back, kind of let life happen, to participator. Get out there and actually do something about the things that we keep making excuses for or that we complain about a lot or whatever those things might be. So just because things don't grow where we observe, right? They grow where we cultivate. So let's think about it this way. What we cultivate will liberate, right? When we cultivate and tend to something, we will liberate something new, or we will liberate ourselves from a bad habit, or we'll liberate ourselves from and like catapult ourselves into a different type of person, a new version of ourself, a better version of ourself, right? There's always that out there. How about this one? What we cultivate will open a floodgate, right? When we start to cultivate our soil, we are like all of a sudden the seed that you plant is just going to grow all over the place. And you're going to just have a floodgate of blessings or fruit or whatever you're growing. It's just going to, right? It's just going to float into your life, flow into your life, or avalanche into your life, right? However, what we don't cultivate will stagnate, right? And we'll get that field where it just keeps growing weeds because we haven't done anything good to make it change the weeds that we're growing. So I want to say this clearly one more time. I may be a little in your face, and it's coming with a ton of love and grace. I am not here to shame you. I am not here to pile on guilt. My guess is that you can do that all by yourself. And part of the Living F.R.E.S.H collective is really shifting that mindset into something different, right? So today I may prick your conscience a little. That's not bad because I may be telling your truth. I don't know. I know that this is certainly part of my truth and what I have grown out of. And I'm telling you, there are areas in my life that still need some soil, that still have some soil that needs to be tended and cultivated, right? We don't get to be done until we're done, right? And so sometimes the truth can feel a little uncomfortable before it really just sets you free, right? Before you can have some humility and go, oh, you know what? That may be true, and I don't like it. And you can stop right there, right? You can just not like it, and you can be mad at me or whatever. Or you can say, that might not be true. And I need to do that, might be true. And I need to do something about it. Right. And that's where I'd like to go with this today. So, honestly, I know that was kind of a long-winded preamble, but here's the thing. God loves soil, right? Over and over, he uses a soil analogy to teach us how life actually works, right? Humans were formed from the dust, right? And God breathed into the dust and made Adam and Eve. And then in Genesis 2:15, he gives us the very first assignment, and that is to tend and keep. And this is where I'm taking off from last week, right? A couple more. In 1 Corinthians 3:9, we are called God's field. We are his soil. He wants to tend us in ways that we can't always tend ourselves, right? We need his guidance, we need his love, we need other people in our lives because we're created for that relationship, right? And then in John 15, he's a gardener, right? We're part of the vine. God is like the tree, right? And we're a part of that. And that's a beautiful analogy, right? Because it's rooted well and we're just part of that. So this is not some kind of like accidental language that runs from Genesis all the way to the end of the Bible, right? This is a thread that follows through the entire Bible, which is kind of fascinating to me. So let's take it and shift it to your life, your body, your habits, your spiritual life, your mental and emotional health life, right? These are not things to be managed. They're just soil that might need some cultivation. How about that? That was nice, right? So, because here's the thing, the soil is going to determine the outcome, right? In Matthew 13, I know if you don't know this little story, it's a quick little story. It's the parable of the sower, like somebody who sows seeds, right? And the seed is the same every single time, right? But the difference is the type of soil that the seed lands on. Some of the soil is really hard, right? So things aren't really going to grow. And maybe that's like us. Maybe we've just got our walls up. Maybe we're in our pride or our ego is taking hold, right? Maybe we just don't think we need any of this, right? And it's going to be really hard to grow in that, right? That's that fixed mindset kind of thing. And then some soil is just really shallow. And like here in Tennessee, that's how it is, right? You go down about 3 inches and you're going to hit a rock, right? Or like this hard clay. It is hard to grow things here sometimes. And then some is just crowded with things that won't allow it to grow, like a bunch of weeds, and the flowers can't grow through the weeds because there's too many weeds and it just chokes them out. Maybe those are our distractions. We've got so many things going on that we can't stop and pull some weeds and say no when we need to say no and say yes when we need to say yes. And maybe that's no to too many things. Maybe we need to say no to a bunch of things so that we can say yes to our health, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever part of the soil that you might need to tend, right? And so this is where I need to get a little honest with you. You can have all the right information, you can have the right plan, and you can have the right intentions and still not get results. Ugh, right? Because honestly, if your soil is just compacted by stress, if it's depleted by undernourishment, right? Like many of our fields here, um, or it's just crowded with distraction, nothing is going to have room to take root. So, listen, hard stuff. I know. If your life just keeps producing thorns, don't blame the seed, right? We have to examine our soil. And we normalize a lot of excuses, right? And this is where this is going to get a little more uncomfortable here. Okay. Because we've learned great ways to justify uncultivated areas of our lives as our identity, right? I'm just not a morning person. I mentioned these a couple minutes ago. I don't track my food. I can't. I can't stay consistent. That's just not my personality. This is just who I am. And some of those things may be true, right? But what if what you're calling personality is actually physiology, patterns, and neglect? What if you're not really taking care? And what if you could, right? So there's a little trick whenever you hear your brain say can't, say won't. because sometimes can't is a choice, right? Sometimes can't is a choice. So you might as well just be honest with yourself and say, well, I won't track my food. Well, now it sounds a little ridiculous, right? Because that might be standing in your way. I won't drink my water. Not I can't drink my water, right? Like I won't drink my water. Okay. Like what's standing in your way? Because here's the thing, when your blood sugar's unstable, nervous system is dysregulated, we've talked a lot about that, and your body's exhausted, of course you want to avoid the hard things. I know. Remember, I told you a few weeks ago, crashed and burned, right? I didn't want to do the hard things I've needed to do. That's not failure, but what it is just untended soil. And I've had to learn how to tend my soil in a very, very different way, right? No more two-a-days like gym and running. No more, just playing the field with my food. Like it has, for me right now, it's very, very structured, and I'm putting everything in my fitness pal and like counting macros. And is this my favorite thing to do? I mean, it only takes about 15 minutes a day. Um, Seriously, y'all, it really does. It doesn't take that much time. I can do it right before I go to bed. I can do it along the way. Like, okay, you get the point, right? I've had to figure out how to tend my soil differently because of where I'm at in my life and the things that are happening. So what happens when the soil is neglected, right? We already kind of know, right? Thorns grow up and choke whatever has been planted. And so we don't really want to call them thorns anymore. We call them busy schedules. We call them constant scrolling or doom scrolling. That's what I call it. My pastor calls it doom scrolling. We call it emotional eating. I'm just an emotional eater. We call it overcommitment. We call it distraction, right? But whatever you want to call it, it's going to choke the growth just the same. And this is where I need to be a little more careful and honest, right? Here we go. This is going to sound a little harsh, but we're in a season. So, that crown of thorns that they placed on Jesus's head, that was really a mockery to his claim as king, right? It was a symbol of disorder. It was a symbol of curse. It was a symbol of what happens when things are left untended. And when we continually choose distraction over cultivation, we shouldn't be surprised when our life really starts producing thorns instead of fruit, right? So I am not here to condemn, produce guilt, just continue to tell the truth. So what do we do? Think about how you treat soil when you actually want to grow something, right? You don't yell at it, you don't shame it, right? You don't expect it to fix itself overnight, right? You work it. You clear the debris, you clear the rubble, you turn it over so that it can breathe. You add some nutrients in and you stay consistent, right? And your body, honestly, is no different. If you want health, then you get to remove chaos, right? You get to stabilize your rhythms of your life. You get to nourish your body. You get to build strength slowly, consistently, right? No magical thinking. No, I'll fix it next week or next year or next month or when I turn 50 or when I turn whatever age, right? Oh, I'm still this age. I'm not really worried about it. Right. We're not going to just keep chasing the next detox or the next 2-week fast or whatever it is, right? You don't restore soil with extremes, right? You restore it with stewardship. And that is my big big blast here, right? We are going to take care. We are going to steward what we do, right? And this is where we come back to that line. We move from spectator to participator, right? You don't watch your life change. You have to participate in cultivating it. And here's the part we don't talk about enough. Here we go again, right? Here's a little, oh. It's so much easier to stay distracted than to face those areas of your life that really need tending. I know. I tried to turn away from it for a long time until crash and burn, right? But healing doesn't happen in isolation, right? Healthy soil grows best in the right environment. And sometimes you're going to need other people who will step into that field with you, not to judge you, right? But to help you cultivate, right? Maybe you need help turning over that field, what you haven't been able to grow on your own. So, I really want to bring this full circle. You're not broken. You're not failing. This whole episode has not been about shame. It's been about, hey, what do you need to cultivate in your life so that you can really drive home those goals that we set out in January. What goals in January, right? Wait a minute. Wait, what? That was many, many months or weeks ago, depending on when you're listening, right? Wait, what happened to that? Well, did you cultivate or did you just go in for the quick fix? Did you just hope to throw some fertilizer on that soil and then we got a bunch of weeds, right? Or did you go in and pull the weeds out, stop the distractions, focus in on what's important so that your seeds can grow in a way that's different than they grew last year, maybe, right? My birthday's coming up at the end of in like 3 or 4 weeks. And this is the time of year when I really look at what have I cultivated over the past year and what have I done good and what have I not done so well and what still needs to shift so that I can continue on a trajectory of growth and not a trajectory of stagnation. Some of that is built in, right? Because I've been doing this for a really long time. And I've also coached people into getting into this place of shifting rhythms, shifting how they shop at the grocery store, shift what they eat for breakfast. Oh, you're not a breakfast person? Maybe that's something, one of those things that you tell yourself, I won't eat breakfast. Well, that's kind of right versus I can't eat breakfast. Well, let's figure out how you can, right? You're not broken. You're not failing, but there may be areas of life that have just gone uncultivated, and that can change, right? I'm here to bring you hope, not shame, not guilt, right? Like you can take the weediest field and pull the weeds out and turn the soil over, even here in Tennessee, right? Where it's rocky and hard to hard. Sometimes you have to bring in some new soil. Maybe you need some new ideas. Maybe you need to take a really big look at all the things that you've chosen and say, wow, is this working for me? What used to work for me isn't working for me. Or maybe you've just gotten into such a rut, right? Ruts happen. Have you seen a rut in a garden, right? They get all muddy and kind of gross, right? Well, that's what happens in our life too. We make these ruts and we don't even realize that we're really just stuck in the mud. And so we can change the mud. We can step out of the rut and it's gonna feel weird, right? Because wow, your feet are free. You've been stuck in mud and you've been wading through mud for a while. Then you step onto dry ground and it feels different and it feels uncomfortable, right? Because you haven't been there for a while. That's okay, right? I often think like if I'm not uncomfortable, then I'm not growing because it can't be comfortable for a seed. Take an acorn, right? Hard little acorn. That thing has to basically explode in order to grow the oak tree. You realize that? Like the coatings have to come apart. The inside has to get to the soil, water has to get to so that it can germinate, and then what grows, right? But that seed has to explode in the ground before it can grow something new and different and beautiful, right? And so those areas of your uncultivated life, you can start to shift those just by doing something a little different, going from spectator to participator. And just, I really want to bring this full circle for you, because what you cultivate will liberate, right? If you're feeling stuck in the mud and you're like, whoa, I am really stuck in the mud. Okay, how do I get out of the mud? Do I need to change my shoes? No, probably not. But it may take a little bit of muscle to get your foot out of the first foot out of the mud, right? And maybe your second foot comes out and your shoe gets left in the mud. Well, maybe that's okay. Maybe you need some new shoes. Maybe you need a different way to walk. So it's what you cultivate will liberate you. What you cultivate will open the floodgates, right? Because when we move from that rut, we can start working on a new patch, or we can start to fill in that rut with some new habits, maybe some drier soil. Maybe we plant a willow tree, because willows love really watery places. If you didn't know that, they like really wet places. So maybe we're going to plant a different tree instead of ourselves in the rut, right? So God did not design your life to produce thorns. He designed it to bear fruit. Fruit always grows in tended soil. This is work, and I know that. And slow, steady, grace-filled cultivation. It's not something you have to do alone. We can renew your health, right? Rooted in truth. Yes, even with tons of love and grace, right? And restored by grace. I love you guys. Hit subscribe. Send this episode to all the people that you love. And I will see you next week. Love y'all. Bye. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drkrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Kris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.